Good morning and welcome. The focus of this year's Living One 2025 series, Seeing the Unseen, Restoration Through Reenchantment, might be described as a practice of expanding our perceptual and conceptual apertures beyond their everyday scope. One might ask what prompts this inquiry, particularly when events lying well within the conventional view, readily seen, climate crisis, extinctions, and pervasive violence are so pressing. As our first series, Attending the More Than Human World, described, it has been precisely the rigid narrowness of human attention and its focused anthropocentric desires which have led to the global demise of plants and animals and our own tortured existence. Some unseenness derives from biological or social constraints. Humans can't detect certain electromagnetic frequencies that rattlesnakes and bats can. Nor, without the aid of a microscope, are we able to perceive the million organisms living in a single drop of water. Billions of worms, insects, and tardigrade metropolises live largely unnoticed beneath our feet. Others easily lie within visible sight, but have been made unseen. As we have heard, trees, salamanders, robins, and other beings who make up the natural world are made invisible because they are regarded as unimportant to humans. Cows, chickens, geese, and salmon, their lives literally processed in closed-off factories, are important to human society, but remain hidden from view to prevent other humans from seeing what is being done. The cultural mandate for pervasive denial and reluctance to broaden the context from immediate personal gain has foreshortened our perspective to a Dali-esque sense of reality. The restorative redirection of our attention from self to other, human to more than human, as the speakers emphasize, therefore, is not only an ethical imperative, but one that liberates both seer and seen. Searching and seeking beyond the exigencies of life has been a central pursuit for much of humanity over the ages. Knowledge of survival, what leaves and roots to eat, where to find water, how to staunch and heal a bleeding wound, is essential for any being. But humans, it appears, have also sought to find meaning for their existence. Reasons are myriad. The wonder of the stars, who and what lies beyond, where the sea's horizon leads, and the magician's now you see them, now you don't, startling mystery of death. Some of these inquiries have been shaped and codified into specific disciplines of study to which lives are devoted: philosophy, religion, physics, biology, literature, and so on, evolving into what many regard as endless solipsistic dead ends, serving no purpose but the individuals involved. This is certainly true for much of modern education and research, where the thirst for knowing far exceeds its purported good. The voracious need to know, with an unchecked gluttonous mind for more information, increasingly lands us in a brave new 1984 world of the absurd, even when intentions are intended to be good. Plants are hurled in unnatural ungroundedness when dropped from heights to prove their sentience. Vietnamese villages are bombed and slaughtered to save them from the enemy. Dolphins and elephants, living in conditions forbade to humans, are subjected to experiments that show that they do indeed possess mental acuity comparable to our own. Nonetheless, they remained imprisoned shadows, despite their moment in the scientific sun. Buried under this vastly misguided enterprise, however, is a healthy impetus. The search for meaning and understanding is intrinsic to all life. At its heart, making sense is a way of restoring balance, a sense of wholeness and belonging, much as we witness when calm and symmetry settle back after the explosive disruption of a kill, hurricane, or wildfire. Our second series, Encounters with the Unseen, continues this journey of restoration through inquiry. But it asks something more than a redirection of attention. We are asked to listen and see not only what is detectable by the five senses, but the invisible, yet very real, senses of experience and intuition. The expanded space of feltness and phenomena often overlooked, denied, or suppressed, yet integral to existence. This is the space of unbounded inclusivity, of non-dual reality. Much of what we will hear during these discussions are events and experiences that have been deliberately disappeared through a political and epistemic hegemony, what is diversely referred to as rationalism, dualism, materialism, or mechanistic dualism. The isms which have dominated for more than 5 centuries have made unseen anyone and any idea which does not conform to the dictated reality of dualism. As a result, natural wholeness has been shattered into a mass of cutting edges and balkanized bodies. Dualism splits reality into opposing pairs: good, bad, mind, body, science, spirit, and so on. It is typically credited to 17th century philosopher René Descartes, who not only divided the physical from the non-physical, but argued that nature works like a machine. These notions stretch back to the classical Greeks, but became unchallenged doctrine with its successive proponents, including Isaac Newton, Francis Bacon, and Thomas Hobbes. Mechanistic dualism and rationalism were not developed as idle philosophies. They were harnessed by and for specific political and economic agendas, commandeered by a handful of men who violently suppress all other views. Reality was fabricated into an impenetrable, unquestionable fortress. As Cambridge professor and physics Nobel laureate Josephson reflects, quote, "People have vested interests, and their projects and reputations would be threatened if certain things were shown to be true." Under mechanistic dualism, if a subjective experience, what an individual feels, senses, and sees, is not congruent with the collective authority, it is usually dismissed as an anecdotal fluke or conjured idiosyncratic fantasy. In the extreme, the experiencer is banished, persecuted, and extinguished, their realities denied and wallpapered into silence. Speaking of uncontacted Peruvian tribes refusing to be engulfed by, quote, civilization, and whom the government and Anglo-French cartels seek to nullify to access oil and gas, Peru's president quotes, "No one has seen them. They've been invented." Across North America, indigenous children were taken from their land, families, and home, forbidden to use their language, and sent to schools to be conditioned into the dominator world. Plants and animals suffer the same predatory reinvention, genetic engineering, and, quote, domestication, where the more than human has been forced to inhabit bodies sculpted into twisted standards of appearance and function. Dualism has not been content with determining external appearance alone. Until recently, the internal suffering of soldiers and others who experience profound violence have been belittled, ignored, and even denied. When poet Siegfried Sassoon spoke out about the devastation and brutality visited on the bodies and minds of World War I soldiers, he was threatened with execution. Challenges to collective reality are not taken lightly. As we will hear, and as physicist Josephson asserted from experience, scientists are not immune. While a researcher's logic may follow the scientific method, findings that contradict or challenge the dominating canon are not welcome. But as the failure of mechanistic dualism grows increasingly undeniable, the confluence of non-dual traditions grows stronger and more visible and vocal. Mechanistic dualism is untenable and unsustainable precisely because it is contrary to Earth's non-dual ethics and epistemes. Quote, when empirical scientific studies discover phenomena or facts that are inconsistent with current scientific theories, so-called anomalies, writes near-death experience NDE researcher and author Dr. Pim van Lommel, these new facts must not be denied, suppressed. Theories ought to be developed or adjusted, and if necessary, rejected and replaced. We need new ways of thinking and to expand science to study consciousness and the meaning of this new understanding. These new ways are budding leaves that spring from ancient roots. Non-dual ties of spirituality, yearning for wholeness and connection with others beyond the outline of form and human limits, are inherent in wisdom traditions. They are alive and renewing our species' sense of belonging into the vastness of the cosmos. It is a reunion of inner and outer experience. Life reveals as a dynamic whirl of potentiality and probabilities in constant flux and renewal cohered through infinite relational entanglements and non-localities. But what is non-dualism? Often non-dualism is viewed as a counterpoint to dualism, much like up is to down, left is to right. But it is not. To view non-dualism in this way is merely reshaping something that cannot be shaped, nor stand in juxtaposition or contradiction to one and another. As the 6th century BC Chinese mystic Lao Tzu spoke, the ineffable cannot be captured in words. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. Or, in the more prosaic words of Zen Buddhist teacher Thich Nhat Hanh, quote, if someone asks you, what does a kiwi taste like? You say, like an orange? No. Is it like a mango? No. But if you put a piece of kiwi in your mouth, you know the nature of kiwi right away. There is no word to describe the kiwi, you just taste it. Nirvana is the same. Echoing Lao Tzu and Thich Nhat Hanh, quantum physicist David Bohm maintains, quote, the immeasurable, that is, that which cannot be named, described, or understood through any form of reason, is regarded as the primary reality. Non-dual phenomena experiences, be they nirvana, kiwi, God, quanta, or love, cannot be described dualistically. So the best way to describe non-dualism is what it is not. Non-dualism merely lifts the illusion of imposed dualistic barriers which parse the continuum of life into a jigsaw puzzle of separation. In its most rudimentary description, non-dualism reconciles what has been put asunder. Dualism splits become whole as mind, body, nature, and interbeing in the non-dual view. The purpose of Encounters with the Unseen is not to offer a crash course on animism, quantum physics, NDE, Zen Buddhism, or other non-dual traditions, nor to prove one view right or wrong, or that there is one unifying definition of reality. Rather, we are invited to watch how diverse non-dual approaches offer multiple perspectives and experiences, all of which have been subjected to materialism and dualism's agenda of unseeing. Instead of proscribing and prescribing the truth, we are invited to listen, feel, and sense an expanded reality or realities in which all beings participate and co-create. In so doing, we delve into the critical ethical and ontological dimensions emerging from non-duality and our existence in a world of persons, only some of whom are human. We go, as author Evelyn Waugh wrote, full of curiosity and the faint, unrecognized apprehension that here at last I should find that low door in the wall which others I knew had found before me, which opened on an enclosed and enchanted garden. But why are definitions of reality so important? One might assume that reality is something known and common to everyone, but it isn't, and it hasn't been. How we understand reality influences how we see and what we do in the world. It is formative to all aspects of how we live, think, act, and speak. It informs how we interact with each other and the earth and the entire cosmos. Once we know who and what we are, we understand the basis for every living creature and plant, as well as all other human beings. We see this immediately in the series opening. Our first speaker is quantum theorist Dr. Kerulos Castor-Perelman, who will introduce us to the unseen, but very real world of quantum phenomena. Quantum physics is one of the innumerable non-dual perspectives, but it has played a significant role in unraveling the mechanistic mindset because it is organic to science, the same belief system that generated materialism and dualism. Discoveries of quantum phenomena made, as physicist David Bohm describes, quote, the classical idea of the separability of the world into distinct but interacting parts is no longer valid or relevant. By the force of science itself, we have to regard the universe as an undivided and unbroken whole. This includes consciousness itself. Non-dualism's boundaryless inclusivity also shifts perceptions about consciousness, and in so doing changes not only how we understand ourselves, but the world around us. In perhaps the most rigorous scientific study ever conducted on near-death experiences, our second speaker, cardiologist and author of Consciousness Beyond Life, Dr. Pim van Lommel, carries the connection of consciousness with discoveries from quantum mechanics, in particular non-local consciousness and the deep entanglement which coheres the cosmos. He discusses how the realization that consciousness continues beyond material death, after brain and body are pronounced clinically dead, radically transforms how life itself is perceived and who we are. If we are not only the territory of a form that we occupy, then who are we? Who are we in both the sense of an individual and the sense of a greater whole? Here we tie in directly to the previous Living One series on attending the more than non-human world. Conventional classical science concedes that the more than human world, nature, animals, plants, and the list grows longer and fathomless every day, possess capacities for thinking, feeling, consciousness, and the rainbow of ineffable experiences that we cherish ourselves. We find, as psychologist William James wrote more than a century before, quote, the world of our present consciousness is only one out of many worlds of consciousness that exist. And those other worlds must contain experiences which have a meaning for our life also. We are immersed in a continuum of cosmic consciousness, against which our individuality builds but accidental fences, and into which our several minds plunge as into a mother sea or reservoir. We are not only connected to plant and animal kin in body, but in mind. Recognizing and understanding that we all spring from and draw from this mother sea of non-dual consciousness, no matter what form we inhabit, is essential, for it advises our perceptions, actions, and thoughts. Consciousness, in the words of spiritual teacher Rupert Spira, is the underlying reality from which all things arise. The shift from dualism to non-dualism is no small challenge. Not only have human minds been ingrained in dualism generation after generation, but there are very difficult barriers. To revitalize and renew, to embrace non-dual realities, we require, in the words of eco-activist John Seed, quote, a profound transformation of our whole civilization. Our worldview, philosophy, economics, energy sources, production, transportation, education, and everything else. This demands that we learn and understand how to resolve the koanic, single, unbroken, flowing actuality of existence as a whole, containing both thought consciousness and external reality as we experience, David Bohm asserts. We must simultaneously navigate two connected layers of reality, what Buddhists refer to as the conventional or historic reality of apples that may land on our heads, and the ultimate reality, what David Bohm calls the implicate order, the space beyond time and space. If we do so, Bohm continues, quote, we can conclude everything coherently and harmoniously in an overall whole that is undivided, unbroken, and without borders. Then our minds will tend to move in a similar way, and from this will flow an orderly action within the whole. This shift is vital. It is the refusal to integrate the profound philosophical and ethical implications of quantum physics and other ancient wisdom traditions into everyday life and ethics, which has created the chaos, disharmony, and fragmentation gripping the planet today. David Bohm's description is aligned with the idea of Buddhism's right view. Later in the series, we will hear from Brother Phap Dong, a Zen Buddhist monk ordained in the Plum Village tradition, speak about how practices of mindfulness and meditation are ways in which non-dual consciousness can manifest and generate an ethic of peace and well-being. Right view, akin to Bohm's notion of wholeness and the nature of reality, is, as Thich Nhat Hanh writes, no view. It is the kind of thinking that is free from discrimination, anger, fear, and illusion. When you produce a thought in alignment with right thinking, that thought will begin to heal you and heal the world. Right view is something you attain only with the practice of mindfulness and concentration. I will close with one more quote from Thich Nhat Hanh. The one contains them all. Your body can tell you everything there is to know about the cosmos, boundless space and time without end. You will see that the here is also the there, and that the now carries within itself the span of eternity, including the past and the future. Eternity is there to be touched in each moment. Both sun and moon, all the stars, and all the black holes can nestle comfortably inside a tiny grain of sand. The entire cosmos can sing to us with the voice of a wildflower.